to Shazia ji's left is Mr. Sarvesh Tiwari. Sarvesh ji, thank you for being here. Our panel is, we've had a day full of, this is the last panel between the PR 40 and the 40. We've had a full day of discussions on the growing importance of PR in corporate communications, the role of technology in era of artificial intelligence. This panel will specifically focus on how to win the war of narratives, how to be bringing that art of storytelling, because it is an art, and how to use that to be a game changer. As we know, we live in an era where countries, leaders, individuals, brand, businesses have to build a differentiated narrative to stand out. We are also doing this when the primaries for the American presidential election are happening. The Ohio caucus happened a couple of days back. Now is the New Hampshire caucus on the weekend. And if you look at the American elections, and we in the media and we in the communication fraternity can learn from them on how they make sure that their messages, the candidates are very differentiated, and how do they stick to their core message and to their core TG, even if it means alienating a certain set but energizes their own base. They build a certain narrative, and I can say that the brands and the leaders that are winning in the political domain are the ones that are setting the narrative, that are doing storytelling in a way that it involves everyone in the story. So with that background, let me ask Shazia ji her opening remarks. Why is it so important in today's era to be a artist of storytelling? And do you think a narrative and storytelling can sell a bad product or service?
No matter how good the narrative is, it cannot ever sell a bad product. So I believe if you look at any art form, we have to talk about content and form. So form can be different things. You can communicate in different ways. How you say something, but what are you saying? What is the message? How are you creating the narrative? What is the story? How impactful is your story? Does your story touch people's hearts? Does it strike a chord? What is the relatability of that story, which is part of political communication in your life? How does that slogan that is being raised by any political party, how does it impact you? Does it stir up something in you? So it is about stories and it is about emotions. Nothing is devoid of emotions. And I think we have to effectively, and I think that party will do the best if it manages to touch the inner core of your being, which is why you see, a voter is to a party what a consumer is to a corporate, right?
I'm 100%.
So when you are selling something, what is that? The idea and the war of narrative becomes very important. And it is a war, it is a battleground out there, because everybody is selling their way. What will BJP government be like as opposed to Congress government? If Akhilesh Yadav is in power as a Samajwadi Party head, what will that government be like? What does it mean to you? How does it translate to you as a common person, as a man, as a woman, as a youth, as a farmer? So there are different constituencies. So when you look at a narrative, you have to think in terms of who you want to reach, how you want to reach, and everything else follows. Whether it's digital, or it's analog, or it's Twitter, or it's Insta, or it's Facebook, or it's everything else and mass media, that is secondary. But what you are saying is far more important than how you're saying it. So
And where you're saying it. So Shazia ji, let me go to Sarvesh and come back to you. जब आप you're talking about bad product, राहुल गांधी जी के बारे में तो नहीं बात कर रहे थे? Because there is a while I may say jokingly, but there is a certain amount of, there is a certain section of people who see Rahul Gandhi as their hero. They may believe very different, and so that product appeals to a certain TG. You know, that's the point I'm trying to make, and I'll come back to that a narrative setting exercise on the other side is also there. but is it working, not working? Why is it not working? If it's not working, why is it working? But Sarvesh, you've done a lot of work in crisis management. And when a crisis breaks, there is a certain narrative. And it takes a lot to change the narrative once the narrative is set. Can you give us some inputs on how you can change a negative narrative into a positive narrative?
थैंक यू सर। सबसे पहले तो सर कल एक च्यवनप्राश का ऐड मैंने देखा था, उसमें था कि अगर आप ये खाएंगे तो साजिया इल्मी और अनुराग बत्रा के साथ बैठ के अच्छा बोल पाएंगे। तो आज सुबह मैं वो खा के आया हूँ। दूसरी बात, पहले मैं मैम से शुरू करूँगा कि मैंने इलेक्शन खुद लड़ा है। आई कंटेस्टेड लास्ट इलेक्शन, और गुड प्रोडक्ट और बैड प्रोडक्ट की बात हो रही थी, तो मुझे लगता था मैं बहुत अच्छा प्रोडक्ट हूँ, बट मैं बिक नहीं पाया। ऑल्दो मैं बसपा और रालोसपा से ज़्यादा वोट मैं निर्दलीय जीत के आया था, लेके आया था। सो मुझे ऐसा लगा कि आप दिल पे राज करना चाहते हैं कि दिमाग पे राज करना चाहते हैं, ये भी बहुत मैटर करता था। मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मैंने दिल जीता है। एवरीबडी यूज टू से दैट अगर सर्वेश तिवारी पार्टी से आए होते ना तो ये पक्का जीत जाते, कोई नहीं हरा सकता था, क्योंकि उनके दिमाग पे पार्टियां राज कर रही थी। सो इवन फॉर द प्रोडक्ट ऑल्सो, आप किस तरीके से, या फिर इवन फॉर द क्राइसिस ऑल्सो सर, क्राइसिस में क्या हमारा काम, हम बहुत सारे रियल स्टेट कंपनीज के साथ काम करते हैं, गौरव भाई हमारे बैठे हुए हैं, डीएलएफ को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं। तो ये एक ऐसा सेक्टर है जहाँ रोज क्राइसिस होती है सर, कुछ ना कुछ, बिकॉज जहाँ भी आप वेन एवर यू आर इंटरेक्टिंग विद द मासेस, क्राइसिस इज बाउंड टू हैपन, बी इट पॉलिटिक्स ऑल्सो मैम, एवरी डे इज अ क्राइसिस। और आज मीडिया क्या हो गई है जिसको हम डील करते हैं, डिजिटल मीडिया, सोशल मीडिया, आप ज़्यादा डैमेज करने के लिए तैयार बैठी हुई है। सो दे हिट यू इन अ लॉट ऑफ मैनर, एंड आपका ऑपोजिशन आपको तोड़ने की कोशिश करता है। वहाँ पे आपको हमेशा संजीदगी के साथ उनके दिलों को छूना होता है, सही बातों को बार बार, एंड उनकी मेमोरेबिलिटी को आपके दिमागों में बसना होता है कि हम सच हैं और सत्य है।
So
That is very
reinforcing the
important.
message is key.
Reinforcing is very important, sir.
Shazia ji, Sarvesh made a very important point that how do you stay true to your message? Consistent, reinforce, because sometimes because of a certain kind of messaging from the other side, you sometimes think about changing your messaging or tinkering around or responding. But if you respond to somebody else's message, you're actually amplifying their message. So what do you have to say about this when you're on a television screen, when somebody has made a comment and the news cycle is built around that comment? How do you move away from that narrative?
So, very good question. And I think the war rooms of all parties are constantly dealing with this. There is always a struggle to, if there is an accusation that is very salacious, do you respond to it? Do you ignore it? Do you become aggressive on it? Or if being aggressive about it, in countering it, do you actually amplify it? So this remains a big challenge. In many situations, you take it because it needs to be done. In many cases, you mock it and say, oh, we don't have to dignify it. But you know, clarity, consistency is very important of delivery. And then also clarity of your message. That's why a tagline matters. I mean, you know, and every company would tell you that. What do you stand for? Essentially, who are you? What is your product? You translate, let's say if a party was to be a human being, what kind of an experience you'll have meeting that human being? What is that human being about? You have to visualize that. And I think that's how you prepare, because how do you personalize a very general, generic, political message for masses? So I think that's very important. So, you know, it's like, and I think I don't know, a lot of people might disagree, but I actually believe that at this point of time, in terms of political messaging and social messaging, our Prime Minister is the best communicator. And I tell you why. You know, small things like, there's this talk of caste census. Everybody's talking about it. This is a new thing that Rahul Gandhi ji talks about. PM delivers on those 3 big states, comes to office and says, for me, the importance of caste is not lost. For me, there are 4 castes. And he talks about Gyan, which is Garib, Yuva, Annadata, and Nari Shakti. So there's clarity there. So he's talked about caste and redefined it. Then the new thing is Modi ki guarantee. So because there has been consistent delivery, we can go with this message with clarity, and that becomes our narrative. So it is about dominating the narrative and how much the narrative impacts, affects people, and also the credibility. So it is just not consistency and clarity. It is also credibility. You can promise everything, but will you do it? What is your track record? So it is working on many, many levels, because the stakes are huge. Just like for a big company, it is the profits, it is your word out there. It's much more for a party which is there in governance, administering the entire nation as large as ours. So we're looking at the third
Shazia ji,
biggest
let me ask you a
economy.
little tougher question.
Sure,
I read an
sure.
op-ed in the print
Yes.
which talked about that big nations shouldn't bully small nations, which was the incident of the Prime Minister going to a certain part of India and promoting it, and a certain nation not doing well, and then everyone amplifying that. So the op-ed basically, I don't remember who wrote the piece, but the op-ed said, actually if you're large, you can't ridicule small people. That actually makes you small.
True.
What
and
do you have to say to that?
No, I don't think India has ever bullied. In fact, ours is one country which has actually suffered and has been on the receiving end. Now, whether it's, if we're talking about Maldives specifically, whether it's a water crisis, whether it's our troops, our forces, we've always been there, whether it's our scientists, and of course it's our tourists. So India has never really bullied Maldives. And for 3 years there has been a complete, consistent messaging done from this party which is now in power, Muizu's party, which says Indians out. So when a country is being derided or Indians are being mocked at, that's one thing. The second thing is, so again, negative communication and positive. So one is you have to stand up and say, no, do not mock our country, we've been there. But also the positive part is we promote a part of our country, which is Lakshadweep. So it's a balance. You counter this, and not as a big brother, but as somebody who would not be bullied by a smaller state, which is using some kind of ideology of that particular party to create tensions between two countries. So it has nothing to do with whether Maldives considers itself a smaller state. No, it is a bullying of the part of Maldives to push a certain ideology in their country, which has been the basis of their victory as opposed to the predecessors. So when they bully us with their ideology, we don't bully back, we answer with clarity again and say, this is what we stand for, this is how we've been with you, but look, we have a great place, Lakshadweep. And I'm so happy because so much work is happening on Lakshadweep, which is beautiful, So
Have you been to Lakshadweep?
I've never been to Lakshadweep. I want to go up. I believe it's very expensive now to go there.
Sir, I will rather divert it from political communication to people's communication. और सरकार को सबसे ज़्यादा दुनिया में अगर कहीं भी कम्युनिकेशन की बात होती है तो सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत अगर कहीं कम्युनिकेशन की होती है तो सरकार को होती है बिकॉज मासेस के जितने भी पॉलिसी होते हैं जितने भी नई तरीके के इनिशिएटिव्स होते हैं एवरी टाइम यू नीड टू कम्युनिकेट टू द पीपल इट्स वेरी टफ कोविड में हमने देखा रातों रात आप कैसे पहुंचाएंगे कि ये चीज़ करनी है और ये नहीं करनी है आई थिंक दैट वाज द टफेस्ट टाइम टू कम्युनिकेट विद द पीपल व्हेन एवरीथिंग वाज स्टॉप्ड and we were ensuring lives to the people. So I think इन सब चीज़ों पे जब हम सोचते हैं तो हमें पता चलता है कि कम्युनिकेशन कितना और स्टोरी टेलिंग कितनी इम्पॉर्टेंट है एक छोटा सा वाक़या है सर इस सब्जेक्ट पे काफ़ी आप चूँकि मार्केटियर्स बैठे हुए हैं पीआर के लोग बैठे हुए हैं एक बार यूएस के का एक जर्नलिस्ट एक थे बहुत ही पॉपुलर जर्नलिस्ट थे बॉब वॉकमैन प्रॉब्ली उनका नाम था जितना मुझे ध्यान आ रहा है 2009 की बात है सो उन्होंने क्या किया ईबे पे बैठ के 200 प्रोडक्ट्स खरीदे छोटे छोटे ऑब्जेक्ट्स थे एक डॉलर के 200 अराउंड $200 के प्रोडक्ट हुए उन्होंने क्या किया कि एक वो निकाला और उसके बाद अपने तकरीबन 200 जर्नलिस्ट को रिक्वेस्ट किया कि इस ऑब्जेक्ट के ऊपर आप एक स्टोरी टेलिंग करो और आप अपनी कहानी दूसरे तरीके से बनाओ एक कंपटीशन क्रिएट किया कुछ अवार्ड्स डालें एंड देन ही टुक दोज प्रोडक्ट्स ऑन ईबे अगेन he posted same products with those stories on eBay. और जो $200 के प्रोडक्ट थे वो $8,000 में बिके सारे प्रोडक्ट। स्टोरी टेलिंग की पावर बहुत ज़्यादा है, चाहे प्रोडक्ट के लिए हो, चाहे पीपल के लिए हो, चाहे किसी भी सेक्टर, पॉलिटिक्स हो, एनीवेयर। सो वी ऑल शुड अंडरस्टैंड वाई स्टोरी टेलिंग इज इम्पॉर्टेंट, इमोशंस। और ये सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि ये कोई एक कहने की बात है, ये साइंस है। ऑक्सीटॉक्सिन, जैसे मैं मैम के साथ बैठा था एक बार मैं चैनल पे, और आप सब भी अगर सुने, निर्भया, चूँकि निर्भया मैम जनरल सेक्रेटरी ऑफ निर्भया ट्रस्ट, तो हम लोग बात कर रहे थे। मैंने कहा कि निर्भया की माता जी आशा जी रोज़ टूटती हैं और फिर अगले दिन फिर उठती हैं उसी ताकत के साथ कि मुझे लड़ना है। और उस औरत के बारे में आज सोचिए कि वो कितनी हिम्मत होगी एक गांव की औरत को जिसने इतनी बड़ी लड़ाई लड़ी। अब जब मैं आपके साथ ये बातें कह रहा हूँ तो मैं आपके ऑक्सीटॉक्सिन लेवल को बढ़ा रहा हूँ, आपका EQ, आपका इमोशंस बाहर आ रहा है, आप इमोशनली कनेक्ट हो रहे हो, आपके सामने एक पिक्चर बन रहा है। सो स्टोरी टेलिंग के नैरेटिव्स को ऐसे कैसे बिल्ड करना है, कब, कहाँ, क्यों, कैसे, क्या, दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सिंप्लिसिटी ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस बहुत, मैं आई हेट फैंसी लैंग्वेजेस। मोदी जी की मैम बात कर रही थी, मोदी जी तो बिल्कुल सटाक बोलते हैं और आपके दिलों को छू जाते हैं। अंग्रेजी में आप जितने बड़े कॉर्पोरेट्स में जाइए, सारे ऑर्नामेंटल लैंग्वेज में फंसे हुए हैं। वो नहीं सोचते, जनता को मतलब नहीं है यार, जनता चाहती है साफ सीधी एकदम देसी भाषा जो उसके दिल को जाके छुए। So I think simplicity is very
I
important.
want to add to that. You see, Nirbhaya story. Now there have been so many rapes, and you know our records are terrible, and I think we need to do much more. But you see, that story touched the hearts of every Indian. So it did something to us because for the first time there was Nirbhaya's mother out there talking about her daughter. We related to her grief. We related to what she went through. So when you go from macro to micro, everything changes. You know, and I think that approach, even in storytelling as a journalist, I'll tell you, you talk about weavers of, say, a particular place, Mirzapur. And you can say how much weavers are suffering, what is happening, but then you talk about one protagonist, Firoz. Firoz, as a weaver, has had 3 generations of his family have been doing this. Now, because of expensive thread or synthetic thread that is available, his quality is suffering, his product is suffering. So when we make the story about Firoz Siddiqui, one person, it changes. We go to Firoz's house and you talk to Firoz's mother. You see Firoz's children. You relate to that. Because it's no longer about the synthetic or a thread or the export of which has become difficult, but it's suddenly about Firoz and Firoz's family and Firoz's ammi who's saying, "Hamare wo din kitne alag the, ab dekho, ab kaise kya hoga." You relate to that, and I think that's very important. And you know, Yuval Harari, if you read, it's such I mean, he talks about it. What differentiates higher mammals from humans, Homo sapiens, is the art of storytelling, building a narrative. It is very impactful. It is everything. It differentiates us from everyone else because we can create that. Whether it's the idea of a bank or a party or a state or a nation, these are all narratives. Religion, it's all narrative. Everything is narrative.
So Shazia ji, since you talked of that human beings have a monopoly on creativity, clearly that is being challenged by artificial intelligence. What's happening? Singularity would have happened in 2034. It will happen much earlier. How earlier? I don't know. Right? Excuse me, ma'am. Yeah. So, we live in an era of deepfakes, right? And we've seen what has happened with certain videos in the last few weeks. As the political season approaches, I'm sure there'll be much more of that. You know, individuals maligning their opponents. I'm talking in terms of politics. I'm sure it will happen in the brand space also, as the deepfakes really become even a bigger reality than what they are. How do you counter deepfakes? How do you counter the tools that create things that are so authentic?
This is going to be a huge challenge. And we had a huge media outreach program in the BJP headquarters, and Prime Minister met all the senior, all the editors and media houses. And he flagged this. And he says, I haven't done Garba in some 30 years, but there's a video of his doing Garba. But it could be anything. And you know, so many women, I mean, so many actors have spoken about the ugliness that this brings to the fore. Not just that, I think a lot of things will change, you know, a lot of jobs will be taken, a lot of fake stories will do the rounds, and a lot of defamation suits will now will be the order of the day. Now, there are three, I see it in if you see various levels of it, one is, of course, the content creators, the deepfake makers, of course, the intermediaries, we're looking at all the social platforms. Then you're looking at the end users, people, and you're also looking at the government. Now, I feel that the government is doing its best. Now, there is a lot happening on that. We are fortifying, also ensuring that the legal framework deals with it, that's viable, that is actionable, that is part of a criminal law, that anybody who can be traced, the IP, can be tracked to a particular person will be. But what happens before that? What if it creates a riot or a war and something, a personal defamation, taking away your civil liberties and all of that? So all that can be actionable, that can be criminally taken care of. But I think a lot of responsibility lies also with the end users. You can tell Twitter, you can tell Facebook to make sure that the fact-finding teams are better, that some things are not allowed. But there's only this much they'll do, and it'll take some time. I think also we as a people should be very alert and not react to anything which is instigatory in nature, inflammatory, and derogatory. So we have to make sure that it should happen at all levels. Otherwise, I don't know where we are headed.
Sarvesh, your comments?
Yeah, if I feel that threat has always been there, इसकी existence हमेशा रही है, कुछ ना कुछ threat आएगा, और जिस तेज़ी से टेक बढ़ रहा है, तो ख़राब करना और ठीक करने की जो ये लड़ाई है, ये लगातार चलती रहेगी. There will be one application tomorrow which everybody will be downloading in their phone, and they'll find out whether it is fake or not. So I am not very much worried right now, because मैं जानता हूँ बच्चे आज के इतने होशियार हैं, वो 10 दिनों के अंदर एक ऐसा टूल बना देंगे कि सारी फेक चीज़ें ख़त्म हो जाएंगी. चैट जीपीटी आया, फिर सर नेक्स्ट डे आई सॉ उसको ह्यूमनाइज करने का एक दूसरा आ गया, उस तीसरे दिन कुछ आ गया. सो वी शुड ओनली बी वरीड अबाउट व्हाट इज़ राइट, व्हाट इज़ रॉन्ग, और वो दिल से होता है. सर आप हर आदमी को, आई फील दैट, जैसे मैम ने बोला कि पर्सनल लेवल पे, इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे, वी ऑल नीड टू बी वेरी वेरी अवेयर दैट व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, व्हाट वी डोंट हैव टू डू. एंड हर आदमी को प्रयास करते रहना चाहिए कि कोई भी ऐसी इश्यूज अगर पता चलती है तो डिसेमिनेट इनटू देयर पीयर्स. हम गलत चीज़ों को फटाफट फैलाते हैं, बट अच्छी चीज़ों को हम रोक देते हैं. व्हाट्सएप के ग्रुप्स पे आप देखोगे, एक सेंसिटिव चीज़ जो डैमेजिंग होगा उसको तो बहुत जल्दी फैलाया जाएगा, और वही सेंसिटिव होगा जो सही में बहुत इमोशंस होगा, बहुत केयर करने की बात होगी, उसको बहुत टाइम लगता है लोगों तक रीच आउट करने के लिए. सो आई थिंक वी ऑल आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल, एंड वी विल बी टेकिंग इनिशिएटिव. सर, it's not
Thank you so much. I'll come to you. We have almost 6 more minutes. We can take 2 or 3 questions. I'd rather involve the audience and make it a 3-way communication. So if you have any questions, raise your hand and you could direct it to either Shazia or Sarvesh. Everybody is looking forward to the 40 under 40. Okay. So let me ask you that question. Shazia, is there a tool book that you evolved? You saw the 2014 elections. Before that, you were, you were involved in a movement which brought you into politics, first into AAP and then into BJP. What is different about the 2024 election in context of communication? Only you saw the 2019 elections, you saw the 2014 elections. What is different this time? And is there a playbook to kind of approaching it?
See, there is a playbook, and I think the playbook of BJP I can speak about, which is constantly evolving. Constantly. It's very dynamic. like you see, whether when it comes to different states and within the states, it changes. So it's completely according to what's needed. The response is totally in accordance with the issue. So there is nothing fixed or standard about it. It changes from constituency to constituency. Yes, there is a broader guideline. And where that is concerned, whatever our manifesto has been consistent, whether it's Ram Temple, Article 370, Triple Talaq, Uniform Civil Code, we've adhered to that. So we'll go with that. But I think this elections, yeah, it is actually going to be battle for Bharat when you look at the present scenario. And BJP is making it very clear that when it comes to development, when it comes to our roads, our highways, our schools, and various welfare schemes, there has to be saturation. Whether it is the thing of Mudra Yojana, where 70% women are beneficiaries, or 11 crore toilets, or the whole thing of rations, which is 80 crores and more people getting food from the government. So whether it's that, but at the same time, there'll be respect for the sentiments of Hindus and the decolonization. So very much this is about reclaiming the narrative. And I think last 10 years have seen more of that. Now we're producing evidence in terms of all the work that we have done, and this would be a manifestation of that. This is also different because for the first time, all the parties have decided that BJP indeed will be a difficult force to contend with. So they have tried to bury hatchets, and the otherwise warring factions are coming together to defeat the BJP. This seems to be their sole purpose or their present raison d'etre. So I feel that, yeah, these will be very different elections. And yes, we're also looking at a hat trick, something that has not happened before. I mean, look at to dream of getting more than 303. But what happened with Rajiv Gandhi in those famous elections of 84 was after Indira Gandhi ji was assassinated. And then there was this big number. So without any of that, on genuine delivery of services and the promises, will Modi ki guarantee work? So yes, this will be the big election. Very Modi-centric it will
The
be.
PM likes to break records, so hat trick, more than 350 seats. Already there is talk of all the Rajya Sabha MPs have been told to fight elections, and hopefully there will be some new faces that will be filled in the Lok Sabha. There is a chatter about it.
sir,
Sarvesh, your comment on how is this election different purely from a communication standpoint?
I'll ask that, but मैम से एक चीज़ मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ, मोदी का भारत की भारत का मोदी?
एक ही बात है यार.
नहीं वैसे थोड़े बहुत इंसाइट आता है.
नहीं, मोदी जी के दृष्टिकोण से भारत कैसा दिखना चाहिए, उनके नज़रिए में न्यू इंडिया क्या है, जो उनका संकल्प है कि डेवलपिंग कंट्री से डेवलप्ड हो, एक विकसित भारत, तो वो मोदी जी का दृष्टिकोण है. लेकिन सब भारत के हैं ना, भारत के मोदी जी भी भारत के, हम सब भी हैं.
बिल्कुल मैम, वही मैं कह रहा हूँ, आज भारत के मोदी हो गए हैं. मतलब एवरीबडी इज सो प्राउड ऑफ हिम, whatever is being done and where India is reaching.
अब अगला इलेक्शन आप बीजेपी से लड़ेंगे.
सर अगला इलेक्शन, मैम से आज बातचीत शुरू हुई है. वैसे तो मैं पहले बस इस मुद्दे पे कभी बात नहीं की, अब देखते हैं सर.
So your comment on how is this election different? See, you talk to political parties, you fought an election yourself, you talk to individuals. How is this election different from a communication standpoint? Has a certain single event that will happen next week kind of made it a only communication that is being talked about, and hence a certain party being talked about?
सर मैं शुरू से कह रहा हूँ कि दिल और दिमाग, जितने भी ये इश्यूज, रिलीजन एक बहुत बड़ा सब्जेक्ट है हमारे देश में. धर्म से हमारी शुरुआत होती है और धर्म पे हम ख़त्म होते हैं. हमारे देश की अगर अधिकांश लोगों और जगहों की बात करें तो आई थिंक दैट इज़ डेफिनेटली, इवन टुडे इट इज़ वेरी प्रोमिनेंट, द सब्जेक्ट इज़ वेरी प्रोमिनेंट एंड इट इज़ इन द हार्ट ऑफ पीपल. सो वो बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा होगा और है. उसके अलावा भी ग्रोथ इंटरनेशनल, जैसे हम जा रहे हैं आज की डेट में, दुनिया के कोने कोने में हम पहुंच रहे हैं, और आज एक भारत का मान सम्मान जिस तरीके से बढ़ा है सर, आई थिंक दैट विल ऑल्सो बी समथिंग विच विल बी डिस्कस्ड एटलीस्ट ये इम्पॉर्टेंट मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटीज़ में अगर हम बात करें तो वो नैरेटिव्स ज़रूर देखा जाएगा। और गाँवों में काम और रिलीजन, धर्म, राम की महिमा ज़रूर रहेगी मुझे लगता है, और कृपा भी बरसेगी।
Okay, let me say that yes, in messaging, emotive messages stick, and they make an impact. Not just messaging, but conversion, call to action, so to say. My own hunch is that I think this single narrative, at least for now, is the dominant narrative, and everything else is not sticking, and it is happening possibly 45 days to 60 days before election. So it will carry its weight at least through some. And then you look at the activation that is being done around in it. If you look at all the temples, I live in South Delhi, so I go to the Ram Mandir near, Sai Baba temple. And he told me 20 seconds. So I asked him, what is on 20 seconds? He वहाँ पे मंदिर में तो हम यहाँ भी पूजा कर रहे हैं, right? So I said, okay, of course I should have thought about it. So point is, that's a big thing. But we don't tend to. You live in Delhi. आप दिल्ली में रहती हैं. सबसे बड़ा इशू कौन सा है दिल्ली में अभी? Air quality. Air quality. Why are we not talking about the air quality in Delhi? Every year we talk about it. It impacts my parents. It impacts my children. It impacts me. We don't talk about air quality. We talk about it for a very little time. We forget about it, and next year again we talk it for 1 week. So I'm not saying I am a guy who goes to the temple every day. I've been saying Ram Ram for 30 years. So for anyone who thinks I'm only doing, if the people who know me for more than 20 years know that, So why are we not talking about such issues?
बिकॉज सर डोपामाइन, एंडोर्फिन, ये बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं। रोज़ आप जो देखते हैं, आपको रोज़ जो दिखाया जाता है, आप वही सोचते हैं। मिसाल के तौर पे सर, मैं लोगों को कहता हूँ कि प्रेम एक बहुत बड़ी चीज़ होती है। बहुत सालों तक एक लड़का और एक लड़की एक मित्र रहते हैं, दोस्त रहते हैं। आप देखेंगे जब 10 साल बीतता है और वो रिश्ता कहीं ना कहीं बिखरता है, तो उस दिन अकेले बैठ के वो सोच रहे होते मेरे दोस्त कहाँ गए सारे, क्योंकि उतने 10 साल के पीरियड में कंप्लीटली ऑक्यूपाइड होता है वो आदमी कहीं ना कहीं। सो आप कहाँ ऑक्यूपाइड हैं वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, और मीडिया बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करती है, डिजिटल मीडिया बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करती है। मैं बहुत कुछ खुल के नहीं बोल सकता।
I think it's a simple case of demand and supply. If more and more people will clamor and ask for this kind of news to be there, or for this kind of policy to be there, the more the governments and media will. So I always push back when people, because I've been on both sides, you see. So I really think that, and media channels highlighted it for some time and it was forgotten. So I think it becomes our responsibility. They will do what you want them to do. So you will have, all of you are responsible for this. We all are, as citizens too. So ask our legislators, what is the policy on this?
You
What
talked
can we
about
do?
political messaging being reinforced. Reinforcement.
Exactly.
Similarly,
And media also,
there
write
is
to them and say, we want
reinforcement.
more on this. We want less of this and we want more of this. This impacts my child's life. This impacts my parents' lives. It's terrible, I can't step out. So, you can set the narrative and they will have to respond. So, if you want...
सेंटर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि दिल्ली सरकार की है?
दिल्ली में तो there's an environment minister for this. So, किसकी हो सकती है आप सोचिए?
Okay, I think I got my answer. Of course, you have a certain official position, so you'll have to stick to it. You believe in it also. But I think the people who create solutions ultimately win hearts. Okay, in any, building a Ram temple is also a solution to something that existed for many years. But I'll not go into religion, and those are matters of discussion. I'd like to end by asking you my last question. How do you prepare? Do you get time to prepare? Because you're called to speak on a very wide variety of issues. So it may be a law and order issue, a women dignity issue in some village of UP. It may be the pollution issue. It may be the Mawa Mohitra issue.
Yes.
It could be something else. So how do you prepare?
So, personally for me, it's not been difficult. I was a news anchor for many years. So every day as an anchor, there's a new topic. So you know how to be versatile there. And and also your recall is very important, your memory, because a news can just break straight away, and and you have to do justice to it. So even when you're speaking on a particular subject, something new can happen, and then you're there and you have to answer. So one is your overall understanding of how things are, not just from the party point of view, but about the country, so that your general knowledge and your current affairs has to be superb. And then there are certain subjects that you do know: law and order, women's issues, crimes against women.
Economics,
Yeah,
business.
the economy and business. You have to know. You have no. You cannot not know this. If Niti Aayog has a headline, has a report which is becoming a headline, that 24.5 crore people have been lifted out of poverty in the last 9 years, you have to know the details. Which time to which time, what is multidimensional poverty, how does it impact us, what is meant by this, because tomorrow, you'll be on air, there'll be a Congress person or a Samajwadi person or an AAP person or a JDU person saying this is not true. So, it can happen. So you have to make sure that you know all about it, because this question can come even when it's not part of the discussion. So it's like that. Like, what happens in question hour for the parliamentarians? Any question can be asked related to this thing. So they have to know. It's just not about one that the bureaucrats can prepare. So you have to be on it, at it. It's a 24/7 kind of preparation and response time.
Sarvesh.
You're always there, ready, like that. So you have to be in that mode.
Sarvesh, in the last 2 months, this is the second time I'm engaging with you on a forum. And last time I saw you had the whole room involved, engaged, and you gave a very good presentation. How do you prepare so that your message, some of it is spontaneous, some of it is by practice, but how do you prepare for your sessions?
सर मैं खुद को बैठा हुआ सोचता हूँ इन द पब्लिक. दैट इज़ द फर्स्ट थिंग, एंड इन फैक्ट दैट इज़ द लास्ट थिंग. दैट इज़ हाउ आई प्रिपेयर सर. दैट इफ आई वॉज देयर, विल आई गो टू टेक माई अ कप ऑफ टी आउटसाइड और नॉट. सो क्या बोलना है कि सब लोग साथ रहें. दैट इज़ द प्रिपरेशन टेक्निक सर.
Thank you so much. I would end by saying that in a multitude of choices, the narrative or storytelling plays a big role in narrowing down the choices and selecting a choice, whether you're choosing a political leader, you're choosing a product, or you're choosing a service. And I think consistency of message, authenticity, reiterating, and very importantly, as Shazia ji said, you cannot sell a bad product. So you got to improve the product. I think these are my takeaways. Sarvesh, you said that in an era of artificial intelligence and deep fakes, there will be tools that will help you discover what is fake, deep fake, and what is authentic. So we don't need to worry. But till that happens, I think a lot of times the subjects have a field day trying to, distance themselves from deep fakes. But I'm sure technology will find another technology that helps us discover that. On that positive note, please give Shazia, Ilmi, and Sarvesh Tiwari a big round of applause. I hope there was something in it which you can take away. Thank you to both of you.